Good evening. It is Wednesday, December 11th, 2024, and coming to you from Lonely Tree Media headquarters in Tacoma, Washington. This is the Best Lamm Sports Show. I just realized that my graphic says December 10th.
December 10th?
Yeah, which would have been yesterday because I was ready for it yesterday.
Yikes!
I'm your host David Lamm. With me is my son Parker. Say hello, Parker.
Hello, Parker. The crowd sounds so good.
Yeah, good. They're. Oh, hey, wait a minute. What happened?
Pressed it twice.
I don't know what happened.
Back.
I don't know. Yeah, I gave them the. They did a quick stop and then a quick go, which is impressive because they're not that well trained. Yeah, we had the end of Formula One season, which was interesting. It was an interesting race, at least for the beginning part of it. And then, yeah, we got Oregon football, and we have our 12, right? We've got our college football 12. We had more NFL action, which is the playoff picture is starting to take a little better shape. We'll talk about all that. But first, we're going to talk about the Formula One because we just had Abu Dhabi, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. The only thing left to decide was the Constructors' Championship. McLaren was leading Ferrari heading in, and pretty much just needed, if they win the race, if one of them, either Piastri or Lando Norris, wins the race, the thing is over.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
And they could have also finished second, third.
Yeah, they could have. But
they gave the win to Ferrari and still won it.
Right.
That would have been the only other scenario.
They had enough points going in to pretty much just needed to do well. You didn't have to do great. You just had to do well. Yeah, right. And not have Ferrari go 1-2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you needed. But anyway, and they looked like the better team anyway. Like they had more speed in general. Notwithstanding that Oscar Piastri got bumped out a little bit. Which, was right off the bat, right? Right off the bat, we had excitement, right? Max decides he's going to go gunning down the inside.
Classic.
Like he does, right? And he says that he tried to pull out of it when how he saw that Piastri didn't see him is what he said. When I saw that he didn't see me, and I'm like, how do you see that he doesn't see you? How is it?
I see you seeing me seeing you.
Right? That's exactly what went through my head. There's no way that you saw a guy not see you. And so he did what he normally does, which is barrel down the inside and not make the corner. So he pushes wide, and he touched Piastri, and they went spinning and caused Piastri to lose quite a bit of ground.
It hurt Max quite a bit, but not nearly as much as it hurt Piastri.
And Max doesn't care at this point because, his season's basically over. He's just out there racing for fun to see who can tick off, I guess. I don't know.
So that's a good question. If you have a driver with no incentive to drive,
right?
Like there's no reason for them to be driving, are they more or less dangerous?
That's a great question. And I guess what is the incentive? Because if you're saying, well, like Max literally has no incentive. He's won the championship. His team's not going to win the Constructors Series because
it was a long shot for
him.
Yeah.
They would have had to finish 1-2 and had help.
And had help. Yeah, they would have had to finish 1-2 and have McLaren probably not finish.
Right. But they weren't going to win. So, okay, so what has he got to race for? Nothing. His seat's secure for next year. He doesn't have anything to worry about. If there's I always wonder about the guys they're leaving, like Lewis Hamilton leaving Mercedes, right?
Right.
What has he got to lose? Their team's not going to win the Constructors' Championship. He's not going to win the championship, the individual championship. So what is he? He's got nothing to race for, right? Other than pride. And he finished fourth, by the way, which was great. But, he's one of those guys. Sergio Perez is still fighting for something. But he gets knocked out first, right? So, that's not helpful.
Sergio.
Classic Sergio. And it wasn't. Let's be fair. Sergio has had a lot of bad luck this year. Some of it was not. Some of it was his fault. But there's been a number of occasions where he's been the recipient of a knock or a whatever, and
or
just
a bump.
just bad enough to cause trouble. Anyway, so I don't blame him necessarily. It'd be interesting to see what Red Bull decides to do. I think they'll go in a different direction. But
they've already said they're letting him go.
Oh, did they talk it today? Because they hadn't said it When did
Hold
they
on.
say it?
It was a couple days ago.
Oh, maybe.
Sergio Perez is set to leave Red Bull at the end of the 2024 season. What sources have said? Okay, so maybe they haven't come out and directly said it, but it's being widely reported.
Right. That's what everyone keeps saying, but I haven't heard an official word like that. That's a go. Like he's going to be gone. But I mean, I assumed that he would. But anyway. But long story short, he had really had nothing to race for, to be honest with you, because I don't think they were going to keep him anyway. If he had won the race, maybe. I doubt it.
Yeah,
So
I think it was decided. Like he had 2 years ago, he was fantastic, and now this year the last 2 years he's been steadily getting less and less consistent, less and less valuable.
yeah,
I mean, he alone, Max is winning races for the first half of the season. You got to win some races. You got to back him up. You got to get some good second place settings, so that way you guys have a chance at the constructors. It's literally all on Sergio why they weren't in it.
right. Yeah, yeah, I feel bad for him because I like Sergio. I think he's probably the nicest guy out there. But nice guys don't always finish first, right?
You think he's the nicest guy out there?
I think he probably is in general. I think he's probably one of the nice outside of like Danny Ricciardo or
Well, sure, yeah. The
there's some guys,
classics.
right? But I think he's probably one of the nicest, just genuine nicest people that's out there in
See,
F1.
see, I always got the distinct impression that he was very, I don't know, not condescending. That's not the word. I just feel like he's not very genuine or something. Something about him feels disingenuous. I don't know what it is. Like Fernando Alonso's a hard ass, and he talks
Yeah,
like a hard ass, and he acts like a hard ass, and that's exactly what you get. Sergio's kind of he kind of reminds me of a politician. Like he's putting on
yeah.
kind of a face. Like I don't know.
I, that may
Looking
just
around, it seems to me like it's Ocon's probably the nicest person out there.
well maybe he just I mean and maybe it's that he's nice, too nice. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
maybe that's what it is.
And
Yeah,
it comes across as being disingenuous. I don't know.
maybe.
But anyway, so McLaren wins the constructors championship. It's their first one since 1990. I wanted to say 98, which is a long time. That's 26 years.
Yeah,
Um, so good on them. By 14 points, they win over Ferrari. And I always want to say this: somewhere along the line, Red Bull had the stranglehold on this constructors championship. It was about Spain or Austria,
they slowly let
and
it
then
go.
and then all of a sudden McLaren starts making up ground points wise. They've gained 27 points in Hungary. They gained 9 points in Belgium and 12 points in the Netherlands and 22 points in Italy. You know what I mean? So, and 28 points in Azerbaijan. And then all of a sudden they were ahead of them. And you're like, what just happened? Well, Sergio
And then,
Perez.
and then Ferrari kept ground too. Yeah,
Yeah, Sergio Perez was part of that problem. Didn't do anything. And Max wasn't exactly winning races. He was
right.
he was in there, but he wasn't winning them. And so that had a lot to do with it.
In two or three of those, he got in accidents. So
Right. Yeah. And then Ferrari was picking up points like Ferrari picked up 55 points in the U.S. Grand Prix, right?
oh, just oh,
Yeah,
nice. Yeah,
55 points is a lot of points to score in one because they had a sprint race. There was that too, so they added some points on there. But
that's fair.
they had 652 for the season. They scored 96 of them between USA and Mexico.
Damn,
That's 100 of your. That's 1/6. That's just
a lot of points.
disproportionate to the rest of the season. So anyway,
Yeah,
but yeah, it was fun to watch. It was a fun race to watch. We had the collision. We had some penalties. I thought that the stewards were just getting fast and loose with all the penalties lately. The last couple races. I don't know if
I
that's
mean,
I don't know if that's because the rest of the season they just really didn't penalize like they should have, and all of a sudden they're like trying to make up for it because now it really doesn't matter. Honestly, they're just penalizing everybody, and I don't know. It just seemed like there was a lot of penalties in the last two races. So 10-second penalties, which you didn't see as many of during the season.
yeah.
To me, you'd see 5-second things and this and that, but
Well, what they started calling penalties once things were decided.
right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Now it's free, and now it looks like you had more penalties over the season. It looks like the same as last year or whatever. It's optical, right? It looks better on paper now, but it all occurred in the last couple races, and you're like, nah, it doesn't. It feels weird. It just felt really, really weird. Like earlier in the season, oh no, that's okay. That's just racing, and now, oh, that's a stop and go penalty, 10-second stop and go. Is it though? And that's what everybody's been complaining about, that they're not handed out fairly, equally. It's not the same judgment all the time. At least that's what Max is saying. Max always
Yeah,
got something to complain about too. So
all of them have something to complain about
they
all the time.
they do all the time, which is pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, Lewis Hamilton will be leaving. And by the way, this picture right here, the Yas Marina, complex. It's an island, like this Yaz Island is what this place is called.
It's cool.
It is cool. I mean, that is a really neat that they go right through the marina, right under that one building, under part of that building that's all lit up and changes color. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're gonna watch a race, that would be the cool place to go do it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'd go.
yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Oh yeah, that'd be really neat.
I just don't want to travel there.
True. There's some issues with that, but it'd be a lot of fun. So already looking forward to next year because it's gonna change, right? So
Yeah.
we'll see how it works out, but I'm excited about it. So I don't know. I was a little disappointed that Red Bull didn't get a little closer here at the end of the season and make it a really like a 3-team race and they're right in there with them. Um, or that Mercedes didn't do better at the beginning of the season and they weren't in it. Because you really could have had a 4-team race. There's enough drivers there that have done well all year that you know what I mean. That there was just certain stretches of time where Mercedes was not very good and or Red Bull was not very good or Ferrari was not very good. And yeah, that's kind of how it all shook out. But your impression of the season, F1 season, better than last year?
Obviously, the
Okay.
last 2 years have been terribly boring.
Terribly boring. Even the
So
races have been more exciting. Not just the overall who wins. It's the individual races were more exciting. I think.
I mean, just the fact that you have more people. I mean, what they say there was 7 drivers this year with at least 2 wins
Yeah.
or something like that. 6 or 7 drivers. I can't remember the exact number, but that's more than there has been. I think they said in the past 15 years.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Like you have more people winning. That's exciting. Like
It
it
was.
keeps things spicy and interesting. Yeah, Max still wrapped it up, before the end, which kind of sucks. I want to see it come down to a final race, but I also don't ever want to see it come down to a final race again because I don't trust the people pulling the strings.
Yeah, it seems like that leaves a lot to but you know what? We're conspiracy theorists. That's what we do here. And so we always think there's something going on, right?
But the thing is, it's not a conspiracy though. Like that's like the FIA did their investigation, the independent counsel did their investigation. They all determined that there was mistakes made.
Yeah, well,
It was a conspiracy when we all thought they did it on purpose, right? That's the conspiracy of it, I suppose,
right.
is that it was intentional.
An intentional
Which,
mistake.
but you had to make a judgment call and you made the wrong one. That's intentional, even if your intention wasn't to decide the winner. You made the wrong call intentionally.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I want to see more drama. I want it to keep going, and I think it's going to because I think Rebel's going to get worse without Sergio, which is weird to say because he wasn't that good this year. But
Yeah.
I think they're going to get worse without him. And next year the first year without Honda engines? No, next year they still have Honda engines
Yeah,
in their
one
cars.
more year.
Yeah, so there's one more year potentially of Red Bull, being on top.
I,
But McLaren made up a ton of ground over the course of 1 year.
yeah, and Max, the second half of the season, Max. I don't know what the standings were exactly in terms of points, but Max wasn't dominant over the, you know what I mean? It was maybe
Yeah.
50-50. So, yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, this picture right here in the interview room after the race
Yeah.
with the disinterested look on the Ferrari guys. Maybe dejected is the right term. I don't know, but the two Ferrari guys both look like, why do I have to be in here?
See, Carlos Sainz is another one of those guys that seems very nice.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But yeah, no, but Charles Leclerc does not seem very nice.
It's hard to get a good beat on Charles because he's businesslike. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily, he doesn't say a lot of funny things. He doesn't really joke around a whole lot. He's very kind of stoic, and I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. So, yeah. Anyway, all right. I'm looking forward to next year. Let's talk about championship week in college football. And we're going to talk about the Oregon Ducks first. Oregon in the Big Ten championship game against Penn State. Right off the bat, here's Kenyon Sadiq hurdling a guy on his way on his way to his first of 2 touchdowns.
He's good.
He's pretty darn good, isn't he? But that was pretty much an amazing athletic move. But Oregon jumped out early, never trailed in the game. It felt like they had control of it, and yet it didn't really feel like they had control of it. You know what I mean?
He's lingering.
They let Penn State hang around. And I was always worried about that third quarter. Well, Oregon outscored Penn State 7-0 in the third quarter. So Oregon's offense doesn't score a ton of points in the third quarter, but if your defense doesn't give up any points, you're doing all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, 37 points was a lot to give up, I thought. Um, and there was some interesting mistakes calling plays wise. There was a 2 point conversion that Penn State went for, and I don't know why. Um, Unless they were just setting themselves up to try and win the game on another touchdown. I don't know, but
Kind of seemed like that might be the
it,
move.
it's weird. That's a weird call in a championship game. You're gonna play. I'm gonna play for the tie always in a championship game, neutral site, all that kind of stuff. What do I know? I don't. I'm not a coach. But Oregon looked good. Their defense looked great at times. Their offense looked great at times. Um, Together, they were good enough to beat the number 3 team in the country, if you believe Penn State's the number 3 team in the country.
Right.
Um, Penn State has 2 pretty damn good losses. I mean, let's be fair. They've lost their losses are way better than most anybody in the country who's got 2 losses. Outside of Texas, right? Who's lost to Georgia twice.
Right.
um, Dylan Gabriel, 22 of 32, 283 yards and 4 touchdowns. Tez Johnson with 11 catches for 181 yards and a touchdown. Like I said, Kenyon Sadiq with the 2 touchdown catches. They just look, they've got so many weapons. They got ways to beat you. It's not just one guy. Maybe it's the running game today. Maybe it's the passing game today. You just don't know what it's going to be. And when something clicks, it clicks. I thought they did a fairly good job of shutting down Tyler Warren. I mean, he did have 84 yards and 7 catches, but nothing gigantic. He didn't have 16 catches. He didn't score 3 touchdowns. They did have
No, I thought they did good. Yeah.
yeah, they did have 3 passing touchdowns. Penn State did. So there's that.
Two of them were touchdowns you and I could have thrown.
It's true. They were pretty open. But yeah, I thought all in all, pretty good. I mean, I'm not unhappy with the game. Um, did you watch it? Did you ever feel like Penn State was going to win it?
There was a there was a point in the second I think it was the second quarter where I was like I don't like the pace that Penn State is on compared to the pace that Oregon was on. But it didn't ultimately manifest itself. And then after that I felt fine about it, and before that I felt fine about it. But there's just like this little moment in the second quarter where I was
Yeah,
like, man, I think it was
they
they
scored.
scored,
They
we
scored.
did,
Yep.
they scored again,
Yeah, back to back
and then
touchdowns.
I was like,
Yeah, right. It didn't feel.
I hate that
And then it
pace.
was a 4 point game, and you're like, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and no, and they were getting the ball at the half.
right at the half, right?
So, and our I mean, our on our last 4 possessions we had punt, touchdown, punt, or well, I guess sorry, touchdown, punt. And so I didn't know what was going to come of that possession. I knew they were going to try and stop us from getting on the field,
Yeah.
but yeah, we ended up kicking a field goal. We ended up having a 7 point lead, and it all kind of felt better.
And you know what it is? They didn't turn the ball over. If you don't
Right.
if you don't turn the ball over, it's really hard to lose football games. I mean, you gotta go out of your way. And so if you don't turn the ball over, and Penn State turned it over twice, Oregon actually had time of possession in this game, which is not something they normally do. But Penn State had more yards, 523 to 469. I mean, they got 500 yards and 37 points to Penn State. And if you had told me that before the game, I would have said, hey, we might not win that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hey, Oregon did what they needed to do. They won the game, secured the number 1 seed. They're 13-0 for the first time in school history.
You know,
Yep, that's a big deal.
what I
So
like is that we didn't have back-to-back possessions at all throughout that game where we didn't get any points. So every possession of a punt was followed up by a possession with points,
yeah,
and I like that. But to your point about the third quarter, I looked this up. There's a website that actually lists a college football team third quarter time of possession share.
yep,
Oregon ranks 108th.
108th. Yeah,
108th at 45.65%. They do not they don't have the ball a lot. And then looking at this game, right, looking at the third quarter here, you're seeing, well, we got the ball. They started with it,
right.
right, in the third quarter, and then we got the ball and we scored a touchdown fast, 151.
151 is pretty quick. Yeah,
Yeah, and then they punted, and then we had a longer sustained drive with a punt. So we almost won the time of possession battle in the third quarter,
right.
but it was still one touchdown, one punt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It felt weird. It just that's all I'm gonna say. It felt a little weird. And Oregon only scored what 14 points in the second half.
Yeah.
It just felt a little awkward. It felt a couple times like there might have been, you know, something was going to happen. Um, the interception late was a big deal. That was just an overthrown ball, but it was hey, there's a duck there. So hey,
There's a duck there.
that's a big deal. So yeah, it was good. I mean, I'm not thrilled with it, but there's room for improvement. And when you play a game and you at the end of it, you can go, hey, I didn't necessarily like the feel of this, or I didn't like this, but you still beat a top five team.
Yeah.
In a well, it's not a playoff game, but a playoff type scenario.
Sure.
That's a
It
thing.
decided it decided some playoff things.
It's a yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. It actually it's decided quite a bit, which we'll talk about in a minute. Um,
Can you
but yeah,
guess which team has the highest time of possession in the third quarter? They also have the highest time of possession. Period.
I would guess it would be Army.
That's correct.
Okay.
They have about a 68%
is
possession.
one of them running teams. Yeah,
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 all the top ones
yeah,
are all those running teams.
yeah. Yep. So a Pac-12 team wins the Big Ten championship. That's nice. And then what else did we have? So we're still in championship week, and hold on a second. I gotta get back to it. Boise State secured a playoff spot with as they were saying it, the biggest game in the history of Boise State football, and it probably was. Um, Boise State's now 12-1. They win the Mountain West with a 21-7 win over UNLV. They failed to score in the second half. They only 21 points in the first half, but Genty ran for 209 yards and a touchdown. Um, it's a good football team. I don't envy a team that has to play them next. I mean, that's not going to be an easy out. If you can stop the run completely, you have a chance. But I don't know if you can. He's big and he's strong and he's fast. So, um, but Boise State's in right as a three.
Is it a three? Is that what they are?
Boise State's the
Sorry, I didn't have the
Boise
bracket pulled.
State's the three. They're the three
Oh
seed,
yeah.
and they'll be playing in the Fiesta Bowl against the winner of the SMU Penn State. So there's that. They had legitimate chance to win that. I think
Yeah.
the winner of
Yeah.
that game. But anyway, I like Boise State. I think that's a good football team. I don't think that's any secret. But anyway, 21-7 win for Boise State on the blue turf, playing at home, which is kind of nice, right?
Yeah.
One of those things that like the Pac-12 did that originally. The team with the best record got the home game in the playoff,
Oh,
and
didn't
then
we? Oh, that's right. We did start that way, and then we moved it
yeah,
to
in the
Vegas.
championship, yeah. And by the way, the Boise State fans took that goalpost to the river.
As
So
they should.
so
Uh,
Vanderbilt, you're not the only one.
the river is not that far from the
It's
stadium. I'll
not
tell
that
you
far. It is not that
that.
far from the stadium.
It might seem like when
The
Tennessee took it to the river, the way they took it down through downtown,
the
they
Vanderbilt
took
game.
a yeah. Was it the Vanderbilt? No, when
Vanderbilt took
Tennessee.
Vanderbilt took the one at Alabama when they beat Alabama. They took the
Well,
goalpost to the river.
that's true, but no, I'm talking about when Tennessee beat
Oh,
Alabama last year or 2 years ago at home.
yeah.
They pulled down the goalpost, but they walked it through campus, down to downtown,
Well,
through
that's
downtown, and then threw it off the bridge that connects downtown to North
well,
Knox.
well, that's a choice, though. I mean, that's a choice to take that route.
There was a shorter route for
Right.
sure because
Yeah.
that stadium was also
On
right.
the river
Water.
almost.
Yeah.
Right. It's on the river.
Vanderbilt's is not.
No, Vanderbilt.
That's
You
a
you
hike.
got to go down Broadway. That's a long ways.
Got police shutting down intersections for
Right.
get through.
Anyway, I think that's the trend now. You got to take the goalpost somewhere and do something with it.
Here we go. Who would have the longest walk with their goalpost?
To a river?
Iowa,
I don't know. I don't know. I
Nebraska.
don't know the campuses. I don't know. I don't know what rivers are around
It's
there.
got to be a school like that. Well,
In
there's
the
not
Midwest
a lot.
somewhere.
Yeah, there's not a lot
Every,
of rivers
but
in the Midwest.
there's a lot of rivers around, just in general. I think college towns have rivers. I just that's. I mean, I don't know. Um, I don't know. That's a
Maybe it's a
great
team.
question.
Maybe it's a team that's up in the mountains, like Wyoming, or something like
Uh,
that.
it
No, because there's a river that
there's.
runs right by the base of the campus.
I don't know. I don't know
Oh,
the
this
answer.
is a
That's a
good one.
tough question, and I don't know
What's
you're gonna find the answer to that ever.
yeah,
Um,
I'm gonna have to Google what's the farthest distance to water from center campus.
I don't know if you're gonna get that. I don't know if anybody's ever studied that. Has been stupid enough to go figure that
I'm
out.
gonna have to look up all 103 schools, pin the stadium, and pin the nearest. I'm gonna say river or lake,
Okay, lake. We
not
could,
reservoir.
but big water.
Yeah, big body of water,
Not like
or
a
it can be
creek.
man. It can be man-made. Yeah, not a creek. It can be
No.
man-made, so I'm okay with that. But it needs to be substantial. All right, I have my project this week.
Okay. Good luck. I'm not even gonna study that at all. You tell me. Um, Number 15 Arizona State beat number 16 Iowa State 45-19. Just shellacked them. That game was over before it
Yeah,
started.
that was a
Uh,
beat down.
Cam Scatabo with 16 carries for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns. When you come into a game, this is a championship game, right? You know who you're playing. You. I don't know if these two teams played earlier in the season, and I don't look at the schedule up, but you know what you're getting. You know who their star player is, right? You know they like to run the football with him. How do you give up 11, almost 11 yards a carry to the only guy you really need to stop? I mean,
Well, I mean, you do it because he has a lot of yards after contact for one.
yeah, he's a big, strong guy, but
Yeah, he's tough to stop.
I would, maybe put another guy in there.
What what did his stats end up at the year? Because it's like
For
I was hearing a lot about 1,500 yards.
Yeah, he
He
had a
must
lot of
have
yards.
he must have had some down games in there because I've seen him. Oh my gosh, I'm actually looking at his recent games. 170, 177, 147. Jeez Louise. Where is this down? Oh, okay, to start the season. 49, 262, 62, 60, and then he kind of started his tear
And
of
then yeah,
100 plus yard games.
yeah,
So he gave about 3 or 4 early games that weren't great.
still averaged 6 yards a carry for the season. Didn't have nearly the carries that Genty had. Right? He not once did he go. Well, once he had over 30 carries. So
Yeah, that's a lot of carries
that's
in
a
a game.
lot of carries. I mean, a lot of teams don't even get 30 plays in a game. 30 carries. Um, anyway, yeah. So he can also catch passes. He caught over 100 yards this season, right? 117, 121. So that's a legitimate player. I'm just saying he's big and he's strong. He can catch. He can run. And Arizona State just hammered Iowa State, and I think Arizona State deserves to be there. The way they finished the season, right? When
Yeah,
they won their last four, they won 6 out of the last 7, and then they won the championship game. And to do that, they had to beat Kansas State and BYU, and Utah was ranked at the time they played them, but they're not. They weren't.
not anymore. Yeah,
And then a rivalry game with Arizona, who they clobbered. So they're on fire. I'd be careful too because now Arizona State's in there too. You got to throw their name in there as the 4 seed,
yeah,
which I was not expecting because had SMU won, they would have been the 4 seed, and they decided they couldn't do that. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Georgia beats Texas in a game that was ugly. I I liked watching it. I mean, but it was an ugly football game. 22-19. It goes into overtime because that's the way Georgia wins now. Um,
yeah.
yeah, and you had 2 quarterback injuries for Georgia. And I thought the one to frickin' Beck was going to be the more severe of the two, but no way it was, right? I mean,
Yeah, no way.
no way. Beck couldn't throw the football at the end of the game. When he came in for that last play in overtime, he wasn't going to throw the football. There was not a chance he was going to lift his arm. He couldn't move his arm. I'm not even sure how he got the snap. Um, you know what I mean? With you basically one arm in it.
Yeah.
But he did it. Turned and handed off. They ran right up the middle for a touchdown in overtime to beat Texas. I don't know how Texas didn't have 10 guys right there in the middle of the field waiting for the run because that's exactly what I said before this. When he came marching back out, I said, "Hey, this is a run. They're running the football," and they did.
And then they did exactly that.
They did exactly that, and they executed. I mean, they're to their credit, they executed. They beat Texas again, and they're the 2 seed now from the SEC. Um, I don't know. This game was 6-3 at halftime. It was classic SEC football.
Yeah.
It opened up a little in the second half, but it was not what I was expecting. I was expecting a little more back and forth and somewhere in the 30s, right? But then the hit at the end of the game was that was on Gunnar Stockton. The hit was how I don't. I guess he's not protected because he ran with the football, but it's still not targeting to hit a guy in the head with your shoulder. I'm not 100% certain of the ruling, but it looked like for all the world like targeting. He just took his head off.
I
He
mean,
knocked him out.
the rule is the only two people whose head and neck area is protected is defenseless players and
Right.
quarterbacks.
And
That's it.
he is a quarterback,
Everybody
but he's
else
a
is,
runner at that point, right?
but he's a runner. He's no longer a QB. He's a runner, and he's not defenseless because he didn't just come down with the ball or anything like that. He was full steam ahead, just the same way that you are. He loses the head and neck area protections. He doesn't lose, like if you helmet to helmet him, like that's
Right.
still targeting, right?
It
Even if
would
you
have,
don't drop your thing.
yeah, it
But
would have been
he
targeting.
he laid an old school
Yeah, it was
hit
ridiculous.
high on a runner, and
Yeah,
I
he
was
was.
surprised
Yeah, I was.
they didn't do it.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I get it. If that's the rule, that's the rule. But it still looked, for all the world, worse than any hit I've seen this season.
Yeah,
And
but I think that's because we're used to them seeing them throw flags for soft hits.
that's true. That's probably
So
true.
when a hard hit happens, we're like, how could this not be? And it's technically not.
Yeah. Well,
So
he just got knocked
and
out.
then
He flat knocked
yeah,
down. And you could tell that he was out. He was, for a brief moment as he fell, he was out. It wasn't very long because he got back up, but he was out. And I was sitting there
yeah,
going, man, the other quarterback's hurt. Beck is hurt. He couldn't move his arm. That's the reason why you got a backup quarterback. What are you going to do now? And if you put him, you can't leave this guy in the game. There's no way they'll allow that, right? That you would think. I don't know if they have the same rules like the NFL where they can say he's got to come out. Um,
yeah.
I don't think they do, but you know, the concussion protocols aren't the same. I don't think in college that they are in the NFL.
They definitely are not.
They are not. So that was up to a coach, and it was smart that he didn't. But don't they have a third string quarterback that could have handed the ball off?
I'm sure they got a bunch of quarterbacks that all transferred from another school.
They could have. Anybody could have taken the ball and handed the ball. They could have gone Wildcat even, but they didn't. They brought Carson Beck back out there, who one-handed it, and away they went. Um, Beck in the game was 7 of 13 for 56 yards.
Yeah, soft.
Just FYI. Gunnar Stockton was 12 of 16 for 71 yards and an interception. Neither one of them was very good against the Texas defense.
Yeah.
They ran the ball pretty well. ATN 94 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nate Frazier with 6 carries for 47 yards. That's 7.8 yards a carry. So they ran the ball pretty well. 141 yards is pretty good. Texas couldn't run the ball. 31 yards rushing. They couldn't do that. But Quinn Ewers had 358 yards passing. He just couldn't get into the end zone. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. It was a good football game to watch at the end. But I feel like Georgia got pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah, I feel like if you could have, bowed up right there, you probably could have stopped them. But I mean, Texas had 6 points going into the fourth quarter. Like, put some offense on the freaking board.
Yeah, you need to score a little more.
Like, yeah, you got to do something.
They
right?
couldn't.
Like,
They could
you
not
can't
find
do nothing. And I don't want to hear that it's a defensive battle when you're putting up 40 something on teams each week.
Yeah.
Like, put some points on the damn board. Put Arch Manning back in.
And the Georgia defense had 6 sacks, so
yeah,
they were getting to your quarterback. Find another way, but they couldn't. Anyway, so long story. Georgia's in. Texas also in the playoff. We'll talk about the bracket here in a minute. But yeah, there's a good picture of Carson Beck on his back after the fumble. That hurt. It hurt me to watch it.
Yeah.
I knew his arm was hurt when he just the way it got. You know what I mean? You're starting to stride into a pass and get rid of it, and all of a sudden some dude just yanks it down. That had to hurt like a son of a gun. And I don't know. There's a timetable for him to return. I didn't see one.
There's not.
Or what kind of injury it is. I mean, I'm sure it's shoulder. It might be elbow.
It's elbow.
Elbow? Yeah, it might be elbow.
Yeah. Yeah. They came out today or yesterday and said there is no timetable set up and it's exploring treatment options. My guess is he's not playing it this year.
Oh, gosh, maybe not. So you're going to go with a backup quarterback as the. Yeah,
I mean,
Stockton's not going to be if he's cleared to play in 2 weeks because he had a pretty good concussion. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's an injury to his UCL. So.
Oh yeah, that's probably not going to happen. Then.
Yeah, and now he could. I mean, if you make it to the championship game in a month, right, month plus at this point, he might be able to be back for that. But it depends on the extent of it. But the fact is, he still hasn't undergone surgery or anything like that for it. So I don't know what they're doing with him. But I don't think he's coming back this season. Also, you don't have. Is he a senior? What's his
I think he is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me.
I'm reading. Yep, senior.
Yeah,
but he's not a redshirt senior. He's just a senior. So why would he do another year? It doesn't matter.
I don't think he can.
But he might get a COVID year.
Oh, maybe. If he's straight senior, then he probably doesn't have a COVID year, does he?
Uh,
21,
I don't.
22, 23, 24. And when would they grant it a COVID year?
Carson Beck
Because
come back in
he didn't
2025.
technically play during COVID, which was 2020, right?
Yes, Carson Beck can return because he has an extra year of eligibility for the COVID season.
Oh my God. All
So
right.
yeah, yeah, you can get up to 5 years, and he'll be one of the this quarterback grouping that's around right now that's kind of going through it is the last group that has COVID
All
years.
right.
So he's yeah, because if he was his first year was 2020, then that counts.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. I just know that they're, yeah, seems like we're getting 7th year seniors.
Yeah.
Got hurt twice, got COVID year, got
Wait, who
it.
had the most? It's the dude from Oregon who's now at Miami has 8 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Uh, tight end, Oregon. I think he's a tight end from Oregon. Yeah, Cam McCormick.
Yep.
He's got 8 years, but he's been granted two medical shirts.
All right.
In the process, he's got a red shirt, two medicals, a COVID, and then his 4 years of regular. So
Yeah. I
it's hard. Oh wait, it said he's ready for his ninth year, so he's got nine.
I don't even know.
What?
I don't know. I'm gonna say that
But
I
either way, there's not a lot of guys who are going to have this stuff anymore. So
so Clemson and SMU played in the ACC championship game, um, and their kicker for Clemson, Nolan Hauser, hits a 56-yard field goal with 16 seconds left to give Clemson a 34-31 lead that they would hold on to and win, and basically steal a college football playoff spot from, I'm assuming, Alabama.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm basically, that's the reason why Alabama's not in, is because Clemson decided to win, because SMU's still in and Clemson are in.
well, I think the reason, well, yeah, Clemson winning promoted all that, but the reason is because they decided to take SMU over Alabama, which is crazy.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. We'll talk about it in a minute. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yep.
There's a portion of that, but Clemson. This was Clemson had this game, right? 31. It was 24-7 Clemson at the half, right? 31-14 at the end of three, and then all of a sudden 17 straight points in the fourth quarter, and it's a tie game, right? SMU comes roaring back, and then it takes the 56-yard field goal, which was big. I mean, you got to give them credit. 56-yard field goal to seal a playoff spot is a gigantic pressure kick for a college kicker. So, yeah, I was pretty impressed. So, anyway, Clemson's in, SMU's still in, which leaves us to our 12, right? Let's talk about our 12, because we got a bracket up here. So let me see if I can get the whole. Probably not. It probably won't let me, will it? Yeah, it kind of does. All right, hold on. There you go. Ready?
Yep.
There's our bracket. All right. So first round games are set. Number 12, Clemson at number 5, Texas, December 21st at 1 o'clock. It's on TNT or Max if you're watching on HBO. I don't know. I don't do that. But so Clemson, Texas got to be the favorite, right? A fairly large favorite, I would think, in that. But the fact that Texas is at 5 is telling me a lot about what the committee is favoring. They're still favoring the SEC, I think. I'm not sure that Texas is the 5th best team in this bracket, or the best team of the others. You know what I mean? Of the last 7, I don't know that they should be that high. And I think honestly, as much as I don't like Notre Dame, you're penalized Notre Dame because you put Penn State in front of Notre Dame still too, and Notre Dame only has 1 loss. Yeah, it was a bad loss. You're not wrong, but since then they've been fairly dominant over everyone they've played, and it's a 1-loss team. So. I do like the Indiana Notre Dame matchup, the 10-7 matchup. That's the battle for Indiana. I do like that. There's the favorite right there. It says who's the favorite right now. Texas is an 11-point favorite.
11-point favorite. Yeah.
That's a big spread. Indiana's a 7.5-point underdog. Notre Dame's a 7.5-point favorite, playing at South Bend. That's going to be a good football. That's on ABC on the 20th, which is a Friday.
Is that right?
I feel like that's right. Friday the 13th, so Friday the 20th. Yeah. So they'll be playing on a Friday night at 5 p.m. on ABC. The rest of the games will be on Saturday. Kind of weird, right? That there's a difference,
It's a
but
little strange, but not too crazy.
not too crazy. So then your other games, SMU plays at Penn State. 11-6 matchup. Penn State's a 9-point favorite. Um, eh, I'd be worried if I was Penn State. SMU can score points. Penn State's going to have to come to play. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that Oregon scored 45 on them. I don't think SMU has the same kind of talent that Oregon does, but they do have a mobile quarterback who can cause them a lot of grief. Um, so there's that. That is also on TNT. TNT's a weird place, right? They haven't had any football all year. Now they got the playoffs.
Yeah, they got, game.
They got
Oh,
two.
two games.
They got two.
Well, it's because of the partnership with Max, I think, is
Right.
why. Because there have been football games on Max all season. So
I laughed kind of hard at these first four games. Oh, the other game is Tennessee and Ohio State. Tennessee plays at Ohio State. That's also on Saturday, 5 o'clock on ABC. I laughed when I saw these matchups and what channel they were on because ESPN owns the SEC, right? And they own the ACC, and technically they don't have a single home game to cover. None of their teams are playing a home game that is on their channel. Yes, Tennessee is an SEC team, and they are playing on ABC, and that is on Saturday, but they're playing on the road. So, that has a lot to do with it. It was kind of weird to see that. The SEC they're not hosting. They're hosting one game, and it's on TNT, which is kind of weird. I thought for sure that'd be an ABC game, but it's just the way it fell out, I guess, right?
yeah.
So anyway, of these four games, right, nobody's less than a 7.5-point favorite. The home teams are heavily favored to start.
Yeah.
Who's on upset watch if you're picking one?
Of course, Ohio State's on upset watch. Actually, I think everyone is on upset watch because I don't believe in Notre Dame. I never do. I think you're just waiting for their loss whenever it is. Penn State's pretty good, but SMU's got offensive firepower,
Yep.
so you don't like that. Ohio State is probably going to feel like they're going to whoop Tennessee, but Tennessee's defense is mean.
Yep.
So, and Ohio State is playing down after everything that's happened, and it'll be nice and cold there. Ohio State doesn't play football in mid-December in Ohio.
Not normally. It's somewhere
Not
warm, right?
normally, yeah. Normally it's somewhere warm. So that's kind of an interesting one. And I think that's going to none of these teams except for SMU going to Penn State is really going to be too far out of their element in
Yeah.
terms of weather. Like
Right.
that's kind of a tough. That's Texas, right? SMU is Texas.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess it still gets cold in Texas. I don't know.
Not like it doesn't.
But if I'm
middle of
picking
Pennsylvania.
one, I think it's Clemson upsetting Texas.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't trust Texas to have the offense necessary all the time.
All
And
right.
if they have a lapse, a moment, a slight downturn, ugh, like you're like, what is going on here? So,
Right.
and we know Clemson can score points. They haven't done it against anybody really good,
No.
but we know they can.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun to watch. It's gonna make it more interesting. I don't even really care about any of the rest of the bowl games. I don't. I could care less because they don't mean anything, and no one's who's anybody's playing in them, or guys have already transferred into the transfer portal, which Lane Kiffin already addressed. Right, that's a flaw in the system. Coaches shouldn't be having to deal with a transfer portal getting ready for a bowl game, and your players are leaving, and you're trying to recruit guys out of the transfer portal. He's right. He's right. He's right. That
Yeah,
should
but
go ahead.
it isn't you.
I know.
Lane, not you, but like Lane. It isn't Lane Kiffin doing it. He's got assistant coaches. He's got assistants to assistants. The
Right.
transfer portal stuff that he's talking about for guys coming in, he already did that work.
Right.
That's fine. It's the assistant coaches take care of the guys going out, so it's not like it's sweat off his sack. Really, like he needs to shut up and just keep recruiting. Like there's so much money in this for both players and coaches and staffs and everyone else. Like I don't have sympathy for you having a tough job.
Well, don't get me started. Don't get me started on the money part of it because now college teams have general managers.
Yeah,
And
which makes sense because they're all going to be employees soon. So
agreed, but
Yeah.
but a general manager is who's going to do that work anyway. The personnel work is general manager job. It's not head coach job anymore.
Yeah.
That's what they do in the NFL anyway.
yeah,
Yes, there's that. Also, we got a couple other things to talk about. Bill Belichick it will be the new coach at North Carolina. That happened today, early this morning. They announced that. Um, apparently he couldn't stay away, right?
I mean, he was away for quite a while. Yeah.
And I mean, he knows a lot
What, like
about,
2 years, 3 years?
and he knows a lot about college because he's got a college age girlfriend. So there's that. But
So, of the bowl games, which
yes,
of the ones are you excited to watch?
the other bowl games.
The other bowl
Oh, and
games,
now I got to pull up the list of the other bowl games
because there's a
because
couple good ones on here.
there are. You're not wrong, but I'm not. These are playoff games, playoff games, playoff games. No one cares. Um, if I'm gonna be the Florida Tulane game,
Fortunately, yeah, I
I'm
saw that
I'm
one.
okay with that one. I'm okay with watching that as a game. I think that might be pretty good. Um, I I'm not I'm not. If you're just going on sheer value of the game, the Oklahoma Navy game
Yeah,
might be interesting to watch. Just because different styles of football, and you never know what you're going to get with Oklahoma. You know what you're getting with Navy.
I
Uh,
like A&M USC,
that could be a good game.
and
A&M
then
USC, and
Iowa State and Miami.
yep, that well, I think Miami's going to crush Iowa State. I do, just the
Hard to
way
say.
the
Hard
way
to say.
Arizona State did that.
That's
Um,
probably fair.
but I also like the Washington State Syracuse, the Holiday Bowl.
Yeah, it looks like a good one too.
That might be a good football game to watch if you're watching.
I don't
Um,
understand how Michigan draws Alabama.
yeah,
It's like,
how do
damn it.
how do Colorado and BYU play a conference game in the Alamo Bowl?
Yeah, I never, well, because I think all the bowl ties are gone. They're
Gone now,
all they're
but
all part of the
still,
what's it called. So yeah,
yeah,
when that came out, I was like, oh, two Big 12 schools. Like, that's
conference game.
unusual.
That's weird. Yeah, that's really really weird. You would think the Alabama Michigan game would be good, but I don't think it will be. And I
I
don't think
mean, if
anybody's
Michigan
going to be.
plays like they did against Ohio
Mi-
State,
Michigan might come out with something to play for, but I don't think Alabama does. They don't have anything to play for, and that's what's always been the knock, right? When you, if, well, since we're not playing for a national championship, we're not trying, so it doesn't matter if we win this game, and that's, I mean, it's kind of fair, but you're cheating the people that want to go watch a bowl game. But I don't know that this is going to be much of a football game. I think Alabama's a better football team, a lot better than Michigan, but if Alabama doesn't come to play and they don't want to be there and guys opt out, Michigan can beat them for sure.
only four people have announced they're skipping the bowl game so far that have made like headlines, and that's Michigan cornerback Will Johnson, but that's because he's hurt.
Yeah.
He's got an injury thing. Michigan defensive tackle Mason Graham, that's optional. Iowa running back Caleb Johnson, and then Missouri wide receiver Luther Burden the third. So those are the only guys who've announced that they're
Still early.
not.
We still time.
Oh yeah, and then the bowl games are out
Right.
now, so it's people can decide like, I really don't want to travel to Idaho for the
Idaho, right?
potato game, so I'm just gonna not do that.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to play in Idaho either in December. Not really. The Sun Bowl, Washington and Louisville. That might be pretty good.
Yeah,
I mean, that could be another good football game to watch. Um, I like the South Carolina Illinois matchup. The New Year's Eve matchups are pretty good. The Carolina Illinois matchup is a good matchup because that'll tell you a lot about those two schools if they're at full strength playing everybody, right? Playing hard. I think South Carolina is probably the better team than Illinois, but I'm not going to say that fully. I don't fully
you
believe
don't
that.
fully believe that,
Right.
yeah.
I think I'm about 65% in on South Carolina is better than Illinois. Defensively, I think they're better, but I don't know. So anyway, yeah, there's some good games in there. It doesn't really hold a lot of sway over me. I'll watch whatever's on. I don't care.
Yeah, I just put on football and let it run in the background.
Yeah,
I've watched so many games for conferences that I don't even
that don't
ever
even matter.
see.
Yeah, I don't even
Yeah,
care. Right? Hey, look, Miami of Ohio and Colorado State are in the fourth quarter and it's tied. I'll watch it.
it's like, oh, let's
I'll
see what
watch it.
this is all
Yeah,
about.
I'm gonna watch the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl. I am at that point, right?
Because is he commentating?
I hope so. I don't, it's on the CW network. That's telling you anything.
I don't mind Snoop Dogg's commentating. Like oh my gosh, he does a couple NHL games a season,
Yeah,
and he's funny.
he is funny.
He's goofy, but he's funny.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, that you're right. The Texas A&M SC game might be really, really good. That might be
Yeah.
fun to watch. All right, let's go. Let's go to the NFL
For the NFL.
because we need to. Let's talk about what happened in week 14. Lions beat the Packers 34-31 to basically clinch playoffs, right? They're 12-1. Um, Lions are still very, very good. The Packers are good. That's a good football team, but the Lions are still very, very good. And if you're betting against another, if you're betting on another team to win the NFC, I don't know. I just don't know that anybody else has it right now. Um, the Vikings maybe we'll talk about them in a minute. The Chargers. Chargers came back from 13 nothing. They were down 13 nothing at the half. Justin Herbert got hurt in the first half, right? Got hit in the thigh
Yeah.
on a scramble throw. That was an awkward looking play. I didn't know how he got hurt when it first happened. He's sitting there holding something. I'm like, why? He's holding his leg, but it didn't look weird, right? Until you see it again, and it looked like he got elbowed like in the thigh.
Yeah.
And so he was out for a little bit, but he came back in. He was still 21 of 30, 213 and a touchdown. Because in the second half, the Chargers outscored the Chiefs 17-6, but it was the back and forth field goals at the end, right? That that did it.
Yeah.
Chiefs took the lead 16-14, and the Chargers took the lead 17-16, and then the Chiefs win it with a 19-17. I'm tired of watching the Chiefs win.
You and me both.
They clinched the division, their ninth straight AFC West title with the win. Yeah, good for them. I still
Yeah.
think it's going to be hard for them to win this year in the playoffs. They still have that thing where they beat teams, but I think if Buffalo can come to play, Buffalo is a really good football team, and I think they have a chance to win this year. Um, I just don't know that anybody else does, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I just the Steelers are 10-3. I mean, the Steelers beat the Browns, and they're 10-3, and yeah, they're playing great ish. Their defense is playing a lot better than it has in the past, right? I don't have a lot of faith. I don't feel like the Steelers are that team.
Agreed.
Uh, yeah, so that's kind of weird, right? And
Yeah.
then
Something just holds you back on. Agreed.
yeah, there's just something that you go, okay. You're beating the Browns, okay, which you already lost to them once, so that's one of your losses. Anyway, um,
Yeah, they got a what's it called? They got a tough gig coming up here soon. I think they got a couple good teams that they're playing, or maybe am I thinking of something else? No, they've got Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs,
yeah,
Bengals to end the season. And yes, I know they just beat the Bengals last week, but
yeah,
or not last week, but the week before. But
gotta play them
there's a
again.
strong. All three of these teams are still playing for high playoff considerations. I mean, the Ravens are playing to get in
Right,
right now still, but
right,
the Eagles are playing for seeding. The Chiefs are playing for seeding,
yeah,
and you're going to get the Chiefs' best. You're going to get the Eagles' best. You're going to get the Ravens' best,
yeah,
and then you're going to get the Bengals at the end of the year. And if you're settled, maybe you don't play anybody. But I don't think so. I mean, the way it's steering, they're leading this division though,
yeah.
so there's a strong chance they.
I mean, they may be one of those teams. I just don't feel like they're. I feel like if you put them up against the Chiefs, they're gonna the Chiefs will win. Or if you put them up against the Bills, the Bills will win.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's just
yeah,
kind of
the
where I
good
feel.
teams. Well,
Yeah,
their next three
right.
teams are good.
Well, fine. We'll know more soon.
According to this, they can clinch their playoff spot in week 15. So
That's this week.
that's this week. So
Yeah.
they can clinch their playoff spot this week, um, with a couple things to happen. But they need to outpace the Dolphins and the Colts. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So they just
Yeah.
need a couple other things, but it could happen this week.
There you go. All right, you heard it here. The Seahawks beat the Cardinals 30-18. Uh, it was a Zach Charbonnet kind of day, right? 134 yards and two touchdowns. They couldn't stop him. The
Yeah.
Cardinals, they had a hard time with stopping him. He looked really, really good. That's the best I've seen him look since he came in the NFL, right? Since this year, I guess, is his first year. So he is the best I've seen him look. But maybe it was the Cardinals defense not being good. I don't know if that's the reason. But I do like the black Cardinal uniforms.
I like those helmets
Yeah.
that are they're not black. They're actually red, but it's like a really
Oh,
dark
that yeah,
sparkle. Yeah,
yeah,
it's super
the
cool. But they
sparkly
look
helmets.
black just in passing.
Yeah,
And then when you really look at them, you start to see that little color come out. It's really pretty.
but I like the black uniforms. That's
I do
just
like the black uniforms.
everybody should have a black uniform, solid black uniform. I don't care what your other colors are. You should have a solid black. 30-18, Seahawks win this one. Scored early and kind of put it away, and the Cardinals never really threatened them. I don't think it wasn't that great a game.
They were coming back, and
Kind
then
of.
they doinked that field goal.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, you're right. They don't the field goal, and that it was.
And
But
when they should have gone for it on 4th and 2,
yes,
they kicked the field goal and
yep,
doinked it, and you went, well, that's that.
that's that. That was your chance, guys.
And did their comeback, because then Seattle just held the ball for the next like 5 minutes
Right.
and effectively killed the game.
Yeah, but it is what it is. Seahawks 8-5 lead the division, right? So they're kind of on fire. I mean, it's not like the kind of on fire that, but they've won four straight after losing 5 of 6, right? They've won four straight, but they beat the Niners, the Cardinals, the Jets, and the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm just like, okay, it's I don't know what to make of the Seahawks exactly. The Rams Bills game was probably the best game of the weekend.
It was electric.
It
Yeah.
was it was it had a lot of fire to it. I liked the game 44-42. The Rams pulled this one out in LA. Josh Allen was 22 of 37, 342 yards and 3 touchdowns, right? And I got conflicting information. That he ran for 3 and he threw for 3, right? And what
Sure.
what they told me was he was when I heard it the first time, they said he was the first player to ever do it. And then what I heard was he's the second player to do it. And then a little bit later on another show afterwards, someone literally said he was the second player to do it, while the stat on the board behind him said he was the first player to do it. So I wasn't 100% certain. But what I do know is that's amazing. He ran for 3 and he threw for 3. And I think it's been done before, but I think it was a long time ago. And I can't remember who the person was they said that did it. But anyway, that's crazy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he was all over the place. But again, like we
He's
said,
really good.
this is Josh Allen, right?
I was playing somebody in my fantasy league who has him, and they got 74 points out of him. Of course, right?
Yeah,
I still ended up beating him.
because the rest of his team was
And
awful.
he was no, they weren't bad.
Oh.
I had just a better overall like grouping of people, and it kind of worked. I beat him by like 2 points
Right.
on a defender on Monday Night Football. So it was pretty exciting. But either way, yeah, that's a hell of an effort that he put into that game to try and win it. And it's crazy that they didn't win the game.
That
That the Rams did it, but the
Yeah.
Rams look good right now.
The Rams do look good. And this catch that I'm showing right here, this picture from Nakua, where the
Yeah.
ball was over his head and he caught it. I mean, stretching out of bounds, and for all the world looked like he wasn't in bounds. But sure enough, both feet toe tapping at the same time. I was like, that's crazy. That's just a crazy good catch. Might be catch of the year because he could only see it like in passing. The way it cleared his head, right? His helmet. It went over the top of him like straight, like a over the shoulder kind of a catch. It was kind of weird, but it was amazing. But they're making catches when Cup and Nakua are both making catches. Matthew Stafford is a beast. He can be hard to stop if he's got guys who can catch on the football. So watch out because the Rams are 7-6. They're right behind Seattle, right?
Yeah.
Just one game back. The Rams' defense is their issue. So
Yes.
that's their Achilles right now. Their defense is not great, as evidenced by giving up 3 touchdowns passing and 3 rushing to one guy.
Yeah, but it's to
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen.
It's true. It's a good
Of
point.
anybody, that's the guy who probably can do it.
Yeah. Well, the Rams are 7-6 still. I mean, they're in there. So Josh Allen just you know what? I'm going to say this. To me, he looked off all day. Like he wasn't quite right throwing the football. And yet still 6 touchdowns. He didn't look
I would love for that to be my quarterback's off day.
Yeah, he looked a little like weird. Like there were some passes that he just flat out missed. He threw some bad balls.
Yeah.
But he still is Josh Allen.
Still is Josh Allen.
Got to be in that MVP consideration, right? Doesn't he?
I think he's the front runner.
I don't know. I'm going to throw you another name here in a minute. Not that anyone's going to believe me that that's a thing, but I feel like it should be. How about the Dallas Cowboys finding a way to make a blocked punt a bad thing? The
What a unique situation.
The Cowboys found themselves a way to lose a football game. When you block the punt and then you try and go pick it up and muff it, don't pick it up.
Just don't. Yeah.
Just don't. Just get away from him. There's a call for that. I mean, in high school football, once the blocked punt happens, people are supposed to be yelling, and you tell people to get away, right? Oh, but this is Dallas, classic Dallas. They did this back in the '90s. You remember Leon Lett, one of those
Yeah.
guys who muffed a play, got a ball punched away from him and was walking to the end zone,
'Cause he was
for a touchdown
celebrating.
because he was
Yeah.
celebrating. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys have a history of finding a way to snatch.
Here's the only thing I'll give him is that you should know because you're a professional. This is your job and you're paid to do it, and you work special teams. This is your gig. You should know. But I could see how if you knew it was blocked, which I'm sure he did because of its trajectory,
Right.
if you knew it was blocked, you might think it's live.
I guess.
Because it is live if it goes backwards, and this is where you need to know the ins and outs of your job. If it doesn't cross the line of scrimmage, it is still live after
It's
being blocked. So I
but
could
it's
see that's the one little excuse where I'm like, I could see why he would think that. However, if I'm paid to do the job, I need to know the rules of the
a
job, and then you got to catch it.
a blocked punt is only live for the team that blocked it.
Well,
The offense can't advance it. The punting
yes, you
team,
can.
nope. You can't.
Yes, you can.
No, not unless you catch it. You have to catch it out of the
You can
air.
advance a blocked punt that does not go past the line of scrimmage.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
I don't think the offense can advance a blocked
I don't know
punt.
if you can throw it.
I don't think the offense can advance a blocked punt. I think that's
Um,
a recovery is all you can do, and it's down wherever. You
Yes,
could
in
look at.
yeah, I'm googling it right now.
Yeah.
Can the offense advance block punt? Yes, in American football, you can absolutely advance a block punt if you recover the ball behind the line of scrimmage. Once recovered, the offense can then run with the ball and attempt to gain yards as they would on any other play. The only thing you can't do, you can't throw it, and if it crosses the line of scrimmage, then you can't advance it.
I was always an impression once it gets blocked, then it's dead
So
for
I
the
guess the bigger
offense.
question is how often have they been able to advance a ball that was blocked?
Well, the problem is their offense is all running downfield.
Yeah.
There's no
Well,
one
yeah.
back there to recover it except the punter.
Yeah, and there's no one playing what's it called? There's no one to block for you if you do get it.
Right. Yeah,
As the punter.
I don't know. I've never seen an offensive team advance a punt. I've never seen it.
Apparently you can.
Well, yeah, that's why I wouldn't know because it's never happened. I'm willing to bet that I don't. I've never seen it. Not that it's never happened, but the fact that I've never seen it, I've watched a lot of football games. I'm pretty old, so is weird to me that that's a rule. But hey, all right, I learned
Yeah,
something. Learned something
apparently
today.
people are talking about it like crazy right now. I'm trying to find a highlight of somebody who has done it, and I'm not finding one because I don't think it's ever really happened in the
Right.
NFL. So that would be why you've never seen it. It's
Weird.
because it's one of those uncommon rules that
That's a weird thing.
you know.
All right. It is what it is. But Joe Burrow and the Bengals are still alive. The Cowboys go to 1-6 at home. I don't know what that's about. I don't even understand how you can lose all your games at home. But they are, and they do. Joe Burrow looked good, right? 33 of 44, 369. Joe Burrow looks good if he had a team around him. Jamar Chase had 14 catches for 177 yards and 2 touchdowns. Their offense is not an issue. Their defense played pretty good, but they're still not. They still don't look right. You know what I mean? I don't feel comfortable with them as a favorite winning a football game, unless they're playing like Carolina or somebody. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know. What is it about Cincinnati that I don't like? I don't understand.
They got defensive issues. It's you think they'll score points, you just don't trust that they're going to stop anybody.
Oh, I guess. Right.
Like they're on a crazy tear in terms of point scoring. Their defense is so bad.
Yeah, since they played the Raiders, they've got 41, 34, 27, 38 and 27 points. That's a lot of points.
They're on a crazy pace.
But they've given up 24, 35, 34, 44 and 20. Yeah.
Yep, that is why you don't believe in them is because you have no reason to.
All right. Yeah, they don't seem to be able to pull it out when they need to, I guess, because they've lost like 5 or 6 one-score games as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, I don't know what to do with the Bengals, but they're still in the playoff hunt. And what's up with the donut smashing in the face, Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow at the end of the game smash donuts on each other? I don't even understand. I don't know
it's
what.
Because there was the Simpsons broadcast.
Oh, that's right. We had the Simpsons Fun Day thing, right?
Yeah, the Simpsons broadcast of the game. So they
I
had a bunch of
forgot
Simpsons
donuts makes more sense. Yeah, because of Simpsons, because of Homer. I got it. All right. I
It's
get
all
I get the
coming
t- I get the
together.
tie in. I never watched that part of it. I didn't watch the Simpsons broadcast
I
part.
didn't
So
watch it either.
yeah,
I
so
watched a highlight of it and I was like, this would hurt my head to watch.
right, agreed. Um, how about the Minnesota Vikings? Right,
How about him?
the Minnesota the Min- right. How about them? This was what I was going to tell you earlier. The Minnesota Vikings are 11-2 after 42-21 shellacking of the Falcons, who used to be in
Right.
first place of the NFC South. They are no longer. Sam Darnold throws for a career high 347 yards and 5 touchdowns. Um, I, I'm I would throw him out as an MVP candidate
You can throw him wherever you want. He's not going to win it though.
because that team shouldn't be where they are, except for he's
Sh-
been good all season long.
shouldn't they?
28 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He's he's efficient. Um, he hasn't cost them. You know what I mean? The game. The Vikings are winning games. They're scoring points. I don't know. I like the way they play football. They lost a couple games. They lost by 2 to the Lions and they lost by 10 at the Rams.
Yeah.
Um, they got another chance. They're going to play the Packers and the Lions to end the season. The last 2 games. So they have a really good chance to state a case right there. And if they can beat the Lions, they got a chance to win the division still, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, yeah, that would be interesting. I don't know. I feel like they've been very, very good. They've just been, a couple of the games have been close, but a good number of them have been close. Now that I'm looking at it, but still, I think he's done a fantastic job. Maybe not. So maybe he's comeback player of the year or something. I don't know. What did he do last year? But
Comeback player of the year would be a good one that he could win. But the fact of the matter is that over the last 7 years, the Vikings have had more than 10 wins 3 times over the last 7 years. So this level of success isn't new to them.
but how they've never done it with a quarterback that you said was probably washed up. I said at some point
Right.
in time, you go, it's Sam Darnold. He's only there to fill the hole until they get until McCarthy is ready, right? Until
In
they can,
theory.
yeah,
Yeah.
and yet here he is with 11 wins.
Yeah, but they've done a few things, right? They have one of the best receivers in the
Yeah,
country,
it's true.
right? They drafted Addison, who
Yeah,
is a fantastic receiver. They signed who's their running back that they signed? Oh my gosh, what is his name? I'm gonna pull it up in
I
2 seconds, but I
don't.
cannot think of his name. Cam Akers.
Yeah,
Cam Akers is doing all right, and they have Aaron Jones, who they got from the
Aaron
Packers.
Jones. Yeah, Aaron Jones got
Right,
900
so
yards
they
almost.
have plenty of talent and weapons around them.
Yeah,
Yes, I thought Sam Darnold was washed up, but if you put a mediocre quarterback on this team, you're still expecting 8-9 wins, right? They're ahead of that pace. Good for them. However, I don't think that makes them like, oh, they're doing crazy things. They're not.
I
They're not doing. Baker Mayfield is doing crazier things with Tampa than this guy's doing,
I would
and that's because he's doing it with nobody.
I would tell you. Well, yeah, I would also tell you this. He's also Sam Darnold's also been sacked 40 times this year.
Guys
So
keep getting sacked
that's a lot, right?
in
So
theory.
so
Yeah.
if your offensive line's not protecting you, but you're still throwing for 253 yards a game, and your rating is a 108, your completion percentage is 68%. You're doing a pretty good job. To me, that's better. That the other guys who are putting up these kind of numbers aren't getting sacked 40 times. That's not happening.
No,
Um,
I mean Pat Mahomes is at 35, Justin Herbert's at 35, Jalen Hurts is at 35. They're all, they're Joe Burrow's at 32. So he's up there, right? He's only people higher than him or tied with him are Geno, CJ, and Caleb Williams.
yeah,
But I mean, you're talking about Houston, which is the division leader right now, right?
yeah,
And you're talking about Geno Smith with the division leader.
yeah, kind of,
And Pat, yeah, kind of.
these
Both of them are in
kind of
my
division leaders.
opinion.
Yeah,
But a handful of sacks. The only person who's got truly like jump off the page sack stats is Caleb Williams at 56.
yeah, he's been sacked
Like
a lot.
he's been sacked a lot, but Sam Darnold's only got 5 more than Pat Mahomes, and you wouldn't think that Pat Mahomes' offensive line is terrible. You wouldn't
No,
throw them too much under the bus.
I mean,
It's okay.
I guess I don't know.
I like Sam Darnold, but the problem is that Josh Allen is 3 times the quarterback. If Josh
Oh yeah,
Allen's on
well,
this Vikings team probably hasn't lost a game.
I don't know. I don't know if I go that far.
I don't know if you can go that far because there's a defensive component to it, but I
Right.
do think they'd be scoring more points. If Josh Allen had Addison and freaking
Yes.
Jefferson,
Jefferson. There we go. Now that's a better
yeah,
way to say it.
yeah, that offense would be electric.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
that being said, I watched Addison catch 2 touchdown passes where I was like, "What the hell is happening here?" Like one of them, like he came to a full stop, and all the defenders like fell down behind him, and I'm
Yeah,
like, what is going on?
yeah. Well, it is exciting. I don't know. I would like to see Minnesota win this division. I like the Lions. Don't get me wrong, but it would be a really feel good story to watch the Vikings win the division, like on the last game of the season to beat the Lions and win the division. Then they'd be securing, I think, a number 2 seed probably,
And
right?
see, Jared Goff has a gripe about that. Like he's doing great. He's doing fantastic. He's
Yeah,
had 2 games this season with almost perfect player efficiency ratings. He did wait, didn't he have a perfect game passing?
he might have. Yeah, I think he did.
I think he had one earlier this year. But it's like he's got another good gripe for it, and he's leading his division. So I don't
Okay.
know. It's tough. There's good arguments for a lot of people. I think
He,
Mahomes has fallen off of it. I think Lamar Jackson's fallen off of it. I think Saquon Barkley has a hell of an argument to
right.
be in the conversation right now too.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I don't know what the perfect rating is. Is it 158? 158.3? Is that what the rating is? The perfect one? I think he did that against Jacksonville. He was 24 of 29, 412 yards and 4 touchdowns. But his average per attempt 14.2 yards per attempt.
yeah,
I think that's 158.3. I think that's the one.
158.3. Yep.
So against Seattle earlier in the year, he had a 155.8, and against Dallas he had a 153.8, and against Minnesota he had a 140. So yeah, Jared Goff's been great.
High
Jared,
ratings. Good
Jared,
grief.
Jared Goff has been great. He's still 34 yards short of Sam Darnold,
Hey, you're right.
and 3 touchdowns short.
Yeah, and he's doing it without
He's
Jamar Chase,
but he's also only been
or not
sacked.
Jamar Chase, Jefferson.
He's also only been sacked 23 times. So
Well, he's hard to bring down. Yeah.
he's been
Also, does he make up for it with rushing touchdowns? Because I know he's got 3 in one game.
he he has. Oh, no, you're talking about Josh Allen. I'm talking about Jared Goff.
That's right.
Yeah,
Sorry, my
yeah,
head got turned around there because we were talking about Jared putting Josh Allen on that team.
yeah.
Yeah, Jared Goff does not have any rushing touchdowns this year.
No,
I
he's
don't
only got
think.
47 yards rushing.
You don't run the ball that much.
Yeah, if he
But
can't
they've
run,
also got a fantastic running back room.
yeah, but he has. Yeah, you're right. But he hasn't been sacked that much, is what I'm getting at. See, if you're not sacked a whole lot, you got time to throw. You're gonna look pretty good.
Well, he's got
Um,
Penei Sewell covering.
that's true. Half the side is shut down, right?
Is shut down. So
Yeah.
and he makes good decisions with the ball. So
Jared Goff is another MVP candidate. I mean, let's be
yeah.
fair. That's a really good player. There's probably 5 or 6 of them you could throw out there, and yeah, Josh Allen is probably who I'd put my money on.
Allen or Barkley's is who I'd bet on right now.
Saquon Barkley's been pretty amazing. Um,
Yeah, he just broke the Philadelphia Eagles single season rushing record.
yeah. Well,
So he's on it. He's got 1,600 yards this season.
I hear you. I just am not sold yet. Jaguars beat the Titans 10-6. Dolphins win in overtime against the Jets 32-26. Why does it take overtime to beat Aaron Rodgers and the Jets? I don't know. At home, but it did. The Saints beat the Giants 14-11. The Giants are 2-11. Come on, let's be fair. And the Giants are talking about drafting Shedeur Sanders. I don't know if that's a thing. Eagles win 22-16 over the Panthers. They're 11-2. And yeah, Saquon Barkley is really good.
He's awfully good.
He's really good.
Do we think he'll get to 2,000? He's got about 350 yards left in 4 games.
He should if he can get 100 yards a game.
Which will make him only the 9th running back in NFL history to have 2,000 yards.
Yeah, I'm gonna put an asterisk by it because he's got an extra game now. They play 17 instead of 16, but the same way they put an asterisk by it when they went from 14 to 16 games. Or
I was gonna say, yeah.
You know, so I mean, there's gonna be if the season becomes 20 games long here in the next couple of years because they want to play more football games, and guys make 2,000 yards, meh, yeah, meh, it's no big deal anymore, right? Everyone will do it.
In theory,
Yeah, and so then those records are kind of they were a thing at the time. But it's like listening to your dad say, "Hey, I used to walk to school 10 miles uphill both ways in the snow." So yeah. Steelers beat the Browns, like I said, 27. Yeah, we covered that. 27-14. Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield back in first place in the NFC South with a 28-13 win over the Raiders. Let's be fair, the Raiders are 2-11 too. And then the Niners clobbered the Bears 38-13. But it's the Bears. So
but it's the Bears.
with a brand new coach, same result. Um,
yeah, it must have been Eberflus's fault, right?
It probably was. I mean, I would blame him. Wouldn't you? The AFC playoff picture is looking a little clearer. The Chiefs are number 1. The Bills are 2, with the Steelers, although they have a tiebreaker based on strength of victory. I'm not exactly sure what strength of victory they're talking
Means you
about.
means you beat someone good.
Yeah, but who? Because they didn't play each other, so I don't understand strength of victory. But
It's definitely a quirky phrasing.
it's a weird way to say it. And then the Texans would be the 4 seed because they're 8-5, but they're also would be the 4 seed anyway because of their 8-5 record. But that's where the playoffs start in the AFC. Baltimore, the Chargers, the Broncos, they're all 8-5 with the Texans. The Texans are probably going to win the division. That division's crappy. Um,
It is crappy.
it is crappy. The Ravens still have a chance to win the division and beat out the Steelers. There's a chance that happens. But the Chargers and Broncos are going to be playing here shortly, right? For a playoff for
That game is
seeding.
going to have a lot of
It's a big deal.
yeah, it's going to have a lot of juice behind it.
It's going to be a big deal. And like I said, the Bengals still have a chance. They're the last team. They're the worst record team in the AFC that still has a chance to make the playoffs. Not that they're going to. That'll last another week or so. But yeah, your Dolphins still have a chance. Dolphins still have a chance to make the playoffs. I mean, Broncos or Chargers slip up. One of them's got to lose a game, right? They got to play each other. So there's at least one game you can catch up. I know.
Please don't let him catch up.
the NFC is the one that got me because it's like not ambiguous at all at the moment. The playoff guys are the playoff guys, right? And
it's some obvious ones.
there's the top 6, and then the winner of the NFC South, which is either Tampa or Atlanta at this point, right? Or New Orleans. New Orleans is not out of it yet. Only one team is eliminated in the NFC, and that's the Giants.
Interesting.
And yet there are 6 teams eliminated in the AFC.
Okay.
Yeah, so the AFC is where all the football is, right? The good football, the teams that have the better records. But the fact that the NFC South is 7-6 leader, Carolina's not out of the NFC South yet. They're at 3-10. But one more week and they will be. And also the fact that the NFC West is 8-5, 7-6, 6-7. Nobody's out of that division either. So there's a lot of football left to be played to figure out the last couple of playoff spots at this point. But you got to be convinced that Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit are in. Philadelphia's in. After that, okay.
So apparently this weekend there are five teams that can clinch a playoff spot. The Steelers can do it.
Yep.
With a win, of course, and a Miami loss and an Indianapolis loss. That would give them their locked-in spot. Houston can do it with a win and an Indianapolis loss. That's all for the AFC. And on the NFC side, Minnesota can do it. There's a little longer with a win, a Rams loss, and then a Seattle loss. They can be in. And both of those are very possible. The Rams are playing at San Fran. Seattle's playing versus Green Bay. So both of those could happen. And then the Eagles get in with a win and a Washington loss. The Eagles loss or tie at New Orleans, or the Eagles can tie and a Washington loss. So they just need to do their job and Washington lose. And then the Packers are the last team. They need to win. They need Atlanta to lose, and they need the Rams 49ers to tie.
Yeah.
So those are your clinching scenarios for the week.
Yeah. You know what we didn't talk about when we were talking about college football? We didn't talk about Alabama and Miami, and we should have. Being out, and I think we agree that Miami was not deserving of being in anyway.
Yeah, they weren't very good.
Alabama and South Carolina are good football teams, and I think either one of them would beat Miami. But maybe that's where the next playoff thing is headed is a play-in game because you watch. They did that with the NCAA basketball tournament, right? Oh, we got 64 teams. 64 teams get in. Oh, that's not enough. We need 4 more.
The problem is I think 12 is a lot of teams.
12 is a lot of teams.
And if you start throwing in play-in games are just playoff games because all playoff games are one and done.
Right.
So if you're just adding more playoff games, you don't have to call them playing games. You can be like,
well, but it sounds better when you say playing. It adds more intrigue
because you're not one of the official 12.
Yeah, you have to win this to get in.
It's silly,
right? It is, but it's hey, if if that's what we're selling, that's what we're selling. So we're talking about Alabama, and does Alabama deserve to be in, right, over SMU?
Right.
And my argument is this: there were 6 teams this year in the SEC that played both Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, right? Six different teams that played both of them. Only 2 teams lost any game, to either of those teams, right? And that was Auburn and Alabama, who lost both games to both those teams. The other 4 teams beat both teams. So just win one of those games, any one of those games, and you're in the
Yeah.
playoff. You all you had to do was beat Oklahoma, who's 6-6,
And you were good to go.
and you
Yeah,
were
there
good to
would be
go.
no question.
Yeah, but instead you decided to get hammered by Oklahoma, not just beat. You got 24-3 as a hammering.
Yeah.
So all you had to do is win one of those games and you're in the playoff. And the strength of schedule doesn't matter. You can say, oh, well, we're going to stop scheduling these other games. Who did you play?
Who'd you
Alabama.
play?
Who did you
Yeah.
play this year? You played Wisconsin,
Wisconsin.
who finished
On,
6-6.
on the road. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So, you didn't schedule anybody to begin with, and you guys, the SEC already has that one gimme game, right? Because they only play 8 conference games, so you got to have that extra game against East Tennessee State or the Citadel or whoever, right?
Yeah.
Which shouldn't count as a win towards your total. Let's be fair. When we do these games, like Oregon's win over Idaho, that doesn't count. Sorry, we're not going to give you credit for it because you beat a FCS team. You should beat an FCS team. There's no
Right.
reason for you not to beat an FCS team. So those kind of wins, I feel like, shouldn't count. If you lose it, yeah, it's going to count against you, but it should not count as a positive if you win. And everyone, Alabama's got 9 wins. Yeah, okay. Well, 7 of them were against pretty good teams, and then there's the other two.
Yeah. The thing is, what you need to do is the committee needs to step in and say, look, here's the criteria to be in the playoff. It isn't a subjective thing. You must have
Right.
10 Power 4 teams on your schedule. Right? You must have a minimum of 10 Power 4 teams. Or
Yeah.
Power 5 once the Pac-12 gets bigger again. But you must have 10, right? Which means you only get 2 gimmies.
Right.
Unless you try and pick out the bottom of the barrel of those other 10, which you can try, right? Like you can try and take on, the worst teams in the Big 12 or the worst teams in the ACC. You can schedule Boston College, right? And try and get a free win out of it. But that's not a free win.
Right.
Not the same way that Mercer or LMU is.
Right.
So
well,
I think you just have to come out and say that. You have to make it clear what the eligibility requirements to even be considered are.
To be fair, South Florida was a 6-6 team. Western Kentucky did play for a conference championship, and got embarrassed 63-0. But it was the first game of the season.
Sure.
And then of course you had the Wisconsin game, and they had Mercer. And that's where I have my issue, is that one other game. And I know you're telling me how great your conference is, but a team from another conference literally just came in and had a chance, was really close to winning your conference. So don't tell me how good your conference is if that happens. So I feel like your conference is good. This year, not maybe as good. You had three really good football teams, right? And 3 pretty good football teams, and then the rest of your Texas A&M, for example. Texas A&M was in the standings all year long. They were in the rankings all year long until the last game, and they didn't deserve to be there. There's no reason for Texas A&M to be there. LSU spends the first 10 weeks in the rankings. Why? You're not that good. So
then maybe you say you need to, maybe at the end of a season, teams are tiered, right?
Yeah.
Right. Quad 1, Quad 2, Quad 3 teams.
Yep.
You must play to be eligible. You must play X number of Quad 1 teams, X number of Quad 2 teams, X number of Quad 3 teams. And Quad 4 wins don't factor into your total.
Right. But again, the SEC is going to cry and say, well, all of our teams are tier 1 teams. Everybody in the conference. Well,
then it should be pretty easy to get your numbers, isn't it?
I feel like Mississippi State at 2-10 is not a Quad 1 team.
Yeah, no, they wouldn't be. Moving into next year,
right.
They would probably be put somewhere, late 2 or 3 probably.
But my issue becomes when you are using last year's rankings, standings, wins, losses, to determine where you are in a tier, because the Arkansas 6-6, 3-5 in the conference, but because they went 3-1 because their non-conference games are crappy. Vanderbilt 3-5 in the conference, 6-6. Oklahoma 2-6 in the conference, 4-0 non-conference. Everybody goes 3-1 or 4-0.
Understood. Those don't count towards your total. I said that.
But they will.
Quad 4 wins do not both up. Hold on. I'm saying what you're saying. Just say. Let me find the way to say.
I hear what you're saying.
If you played 12 games last year, so this season will be the starting basis for next season.
Right.
So next season we would look at how many Quad 1 wins you have, how many Quad 2, how many Quad 3, how many Quad 4. Your 2-10 teams, who are non-Power 5. right? So let's say you played LMU and they were 2-10, they're non-power five. They don't count.
Got it.
Period. They don't
Right.
count in the factory, and they're not even a quad four.
Right.
Like you have to play. So that is why you need the numbers to bump up, right? You would have to start scheduling teams that
I,
were of a better caliber.
yeah, I get it, but they're playing. But you are only scheduling just good enough to not be excluded. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
sure.
that's all you're gonna do.
And everyone's going to do the exact same thing.
I'm,
Oregon's going to schedule
right.
not Alabama. We'll schedule like Missouri, and
Right.
Alabama's not going to schedule Oregon. They're going to schedule like I don't know Minnesota.
Right.
Like everyone's going to do the same thing,
I
but it'll all count.
I still think you should have a rotating conference versus conference schedule so that you play the SEC this year. Your non-conference games, two of them or three of them or however many you want to
I like
deem.
that
Let's
too.
say two have to be against the ACC. Next year, two of them against the Big Ten. Next year, two of them against the Big 12, and that way you're always playing somebody. There's no nobodies to be played. I mean, even if you're playing the worst team in the conference, but make it TV watchable. So this year,
TV watchable, yeah.
yeah, make it TV watchable. So next year, Georgia plays Arizona State, right? They're conference champions. They're going to play against each other in that game. I know these things are scheduled way ahead of time, and I get that, but maybe
But they don't have to be
they
anymore.
don't have to
And
be.
they're not that scheduled that far ahead anymore. They're
Right.
changing year after year.
Yeah.
Then why don't you make it to where, in order to be eligible for the college football? Because the thing is, if you leave it up to the teams, they're going to find the loophole. Stop.
They are.
Stop
They
leaving it
will.
up to the teams. You
They
have
will.
to make a mandate for how they have to act to even be considered, right?
Agreed.
To even be considered. Because if you say, well, we want to see best strength of schedule. That's super subjective, right? Isn't it? Like I could argue this, I could argue that. Our conference is great, blah 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 blah. Doesn't matter, right? So here's the deal: if you're a quad one team at the end of last season, you cannot play teams more than two quads away from yours.
Right.
Right?
Shouldn't have a quad four team.
They do not count in football.
Right.
We will not consider them. We will not watch the tape. We will not review it. We will not look. So if you're
Unless
in
you
Alabama
lose.
and Oregon, no. I don't want any part of it, right? If you lose, that sucks for you, and that looks real bad on you. You shouldn't have scheduled it to begin with, but it does not count, period. Right? Which means you're not going to hit, if you put three of those teams in there, you're not going to hit your required 10-team.
Gotcha. I hear
you. 10-game eligibility to be in there. So Alabama, the worst teams that they could score are going to be quad three teams, which are going to be middle of the road, Big 10, Big 12, ACC, and SEC teams, but you're not going to be able to schedule the worst of the worst.
Right.
You know, I think just keep making people play, but also the schedule should be made by the league.
It should be.
Right. You shouldn't choose who you're playing. Like, let me choose it for you. I'm going to give you some good games for your non-conference, and guess what? You're not the only one. Oregon's going to get some good games too, and Ohio State's going to get some good games. Everyone's going to play good teams.
Or you sprinkle it. If you want to have one of those games, so you sprinkle it like I'm talking about, where next year the SEC plays the ACC, right?
Right.
Okay. If you don't have the same number of teams, that's fine. We'll figure that out. But your number one plays number one, number two plays number two, number three plays number three. That way they're matched up in terms of where they finished, right? These teams should be fairly even. I mean, relatively. One conference, you'll know if one, but it's different from year to year, so you won't really know if one conference is better than the other. You just know that they're better now. They might not have been better last year. Anyway, but you play one. We're gonna have one game against the ACC. It's required, and you're gonna have one game against the Sun Belt. That's required. And that way those other teams can get a payoff for coming to play at your place. We can still revenue share a little bit, right? But yeah, you make it so that these three conferences are who the SEC is going to play. You have to play one from this, one from this, one from this. The ACC, you're going to play one from this, one from this, one. You know what I mean? Make it mandatory that way. And that way you can be flexible in who you schedule. Go run to the phone and see who you can get right now. But the big conferences, SEC, Big 10, they match up, right? 16 teams. One plays one, two plays two, three plays three. Easy. It's easy. And who wouldn't want to see Oregon and Georgia play first round next year?
Georgia wouldn't.
Georgia would not. Oregon. Neither one of them would. You're right.
Neither one of them would. Yeah.
But it's going to be a good loss. If you're going to lose a game, it's going to be early in the season, and it's going to be to a good team. So it won't hurt you.
But see, that's where you have Alabama out there screaming about our conference is tough, so these are good losses versus Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, and you're like, no, they're not.
Oklahoma, those guys are 6-6. Those are not great.
You're supposed to be really good.
Yeah.
You can't lose to these teams.
Right. So yeah. I don't know. There's no good way to do it, and nobody's going to fix it. So there's that. Nobody's going to take charge of it and say, yeah, let's fix it. So it's going to keep going the way it is, and It's okay. It is what it is. As
But
long as the games
it's
are
also the
entertaining.
first year of the playoffs, and
Yeah.
this is the biggest controversy
It,
was that Alabama with 3 losses didn't get in.
I if it was me and I saw one thing to tweak for next year, and I'm not sure how soon they'll tweak anything, but if they were going to tweak something, I would reseed the teams after the first round.
Yeah.
Do not allow this to be, hey, number one has to play the toughest team on the schedule. Don't allow other teams to lose a game late so they get an easier path. Don't allow that to happen.
Yeah,
Right?
because if Oregon would have lost that title game, we would have been what, 5th or 6th or something like that.
We would
Our
have
path,
probably been fifth.
our path would have been
We would have been
playing
Clemson. Right.
in the first round,
Right.
and then Arizona State in the second round.
Right. And now you're through to the semis.
Yeah,
I mean, let's be honest.
And now, how important is a conference championship if you get a better path?
Exactly. Don't allow that to be a thing where you can just lose a game and get an easier path into the semifinals or the championship. So,
Yeah,
anyway.
no, the best team in the country should play the easiest teams all the way to the final. The worst team in the playoffs should play the hardest teams all the way to the final.
It's the way the NFL does it. So, yeah. So when upsets happen in that first round, if the 12 seed, if Clemson manages to beat Texas, right? Well, Clemson's next game would be against Oregon because they're the 12 and Oregon's the 1. So you have a harder path. Sorry, you don't get to play Arizona State. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway.
We'll see.
We'll
submit the ideas.
I mean, because I have a pipeline right to the guys at the committee. Anyway. Anything else?
No, I'm all good.
I think we're done. We're going to talk next week. More NFL football, mostly NFL football. We'll talk a little basketball, college basketball, NFL. We'll talk about some of that stuff. There's no F1 anymore, so I don't know what else we're going to talk about. In college football bowl games, there's a couple, and that's about it, right? I mean, what else is there? Anyway, it's that time of year. I want to thank everybody for listening. It's been a Brain Rock production, a division of Lonely Tree Media. We'll see you next week.